Hello, welcome to DJ Force X in Conversation, episode 91. It's been a few weeks in between, but I've had a little bit of break and a couple of interviews that I've managed to conduct. One of them, which you're going to hear right now, which is Graham Oliver. For those that don't recognise the name, he was one of the founding members of the British heavy metal band Saxon. No longer part of that band, but still playing their tunes out and about. We'll talk about that in the interview. But he's here to discuss three new reissues of Saxon's back catalogue, sort of definitive albums. We've got Denim and Leather, The Power and the Glory, and The Crusader. Each of those albums I kind of grew up on here and there between Maiden and Guns N' Roses and Priest and stuff like that. And it was an absolute pleasure to speak to him, because you don't get to sort of talk to many people of your childhood, if that makes sense. I've only done it a couple of times, I think. And this was one of them. It was like kind of like that moment of, oh, wow, yes. When I went back and listened to these albums, it was like, I remember these songs. I remember, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I blather on about that in the interview as well. But he was very courteous to spend a bit of time with me just talking about that and what he's doing now and all that kind of good stuff. But those albums are available now on CD and vinyl. With the CD versions, you get a whole bunch of like live and demo tracks. And the vinyl are all on limited edition splatter vinyl. So they're all different colours. They're limited to, I think, 500 pressings in the UK. Of the vinyl, and the CD, I think it's just as many pressings as they have on that front. But do check it out. There's some quality tracks on there that I'd forgotten about, like previously, and you don't realise quite how many tracks. It's one of those things. You'll hear me blather on anyway. You're hearing me blather on now. But I've just got basically a quick plug for a couple of my other projects. Crossing the Streams goes out on Total Rock every Tuesday night, 11 p.m. UK time. That is my mix show where I mix metal, rock, dance music, all that kind of stuff together for a good hours long mix. You can also catch that on Mixcloud after it's aired. That's mixcloud.com/DJ Force X. And this show, DJ Force X in Conversation, goes out every Sunday at 6 p.m. UK time on totalrock.com. That is more my sort of chat-based show, which is what this is based around, but without the music. Tune into that to hear some of the tracks from Saxon. Also, tune into that. I've got a couple of interviews coming up, one with Goreflesh, which are kind of more on the industrial side of things, and a man called Dave Perry. Now, that one, if you remember Games Master and things of that ilk back in the day, yes, it's the same Dave Perry. And we're chatting about his new stuff, his new YouTube channel called Games Animal, and what he's been doing since the days of Games Master, really, and how he's sort of kept involved, and he's very much into the kind of alternative music scene as well, which you'll find that out in a couple of weeks. But yeah, this one is Graham Oliver of Saxon. Enjoy. Graham Oliver, welcome to the show, first and foremost.
Great to be on the show, Barnaby, with you.
Thank you. We're here to talk today about three reissues of Saxon, classic Saxon albums, I should say. We've got Denim and Leather, we've got Power and the Glory, and Crusader, all being released as we're chatting right now, coming out on Friday. But when this goes out, they'll be out already for people to go and grab.
The last three went into the rock charts. The previous three.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, all at the same time, which was a real thrill for us.
No, like I said before we started recording and stuff, that I'm actually quite a long time fan. I really love the album Wheels of Steel, which I think was one of the previous ones you guys re-released.
That's right, yeah.
I I don't think it's an original pressing, but I've got an early pressing amongst my collection here.
Funny enough, I went into a shop yesterday in my hometown, and a young lad who was about 16 produced an original copy that he'd found at a car booth and asked me to sign it. So the original vinyl's still out there, and young guys at that age are still liking it, which is amazing.
There's been a resurgence of a love for vinyl. I mean, I've always been myself a lover of that. I'm a DJ by kind of most of my life I've been a DJ, and I grew up with vinyl around me, and then obviously progressed to CDs, and then it went digital, and it's sort of it's going back again. Everything that goes around comes around on that front.
Well, I can remember going on the bus to Doncaster as a young lad, about 16, and buying Jimi Hendrix live at the Isle of Wight, and coming home clutching it in a bag, looking at every little word on it,
Yeah.
And I think vinyl albums were a possession, something to have, where the other things that became a convenience,
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel that vinyl is art in itself. The way that it's presented to you. I mean, I love CDs as well. CDs were great, but again, it was more a convenience thing. MP3s, they are flat out convenience. To be perfectly honest with you, you can have your entire music collection in your pocket, but you do lack that kind of like physical ownership. I feel like looking, I've got the 3 albums in front of me right now. Actually, the one you guys are just about to re-release, and just looking at the artwork alone in that size format with the CD, it's kind of smaller. You still get the detail in there. You can look around these pictures and catch things that you hadn't seen before, and just having that little bit more on there. I mean, I've got the Crusader album in my hand right now, and that's that's
a double gatefold. Yeah,
that is yes, and I'd say the artwork on this one is brilliant. It's it's just like that kind of classic kind of oil painting, if you will, of a war scene. But it's you just catch those little things and the little nuances the artist might have put in there that you don't quite get with, with the kind of on thing. And I'm so glad it's coming back around. And you guys obviously releasing this on limited edition, what do they call it, splatter vinyl as well.
Splatter vinyl on BMG label,
yeah. So they've got nice little colours to them and stuff like that. Was the Power and the Glory ones like a blue and a red or blue and a purple? I think it is. I'm trying to look at it right now. It's like a blue and a purpley colour. You got Denim
and then
Leather.
The CDs have got all the added bonus tracks that we can talk about later.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was going to go on to those, because obviously you've packed these things with various bits of memorabilia. You've got things like obviously some, I think, is it unreleased demos and remixes for the CDs, like you just said. And then there's some photos and memorabilia as well that are kind of new to these albums around that.
That's right.
Yeah. So what? Obviously, having these things re-released, obviously, it brings back a lot of that time. I would have thought for you, being at sort of Saxon's height, if you will.
Well, myself and Steve Dawson, Barnaby, actually went to Abbey Road and spent a day there going through a lot of the archive material for some of these releases.
Yeah.
And the Cayley tapes, what you can see on the back of it, and the Donington, there were tapes that belonged to myself and Steve Dawson. The Cayley tapes were outtakes for Crusader, and we'd done them in pre-production at Jive Bunny Studio, in fact, in Parkgate at Rotherham.
Uh-oh.
And then the Donington tape, I had a reel of it, and it was that old, it had to be baked before they could transfer it digitally onto another format.
Yeah.
And Steve's tapes were inch tapes, so they'd not been played since the day we did them back before we went to Los Angeles, the Sound City Studios.
Yeah.
We did all the pre-production and the demos in Rotherham. In fact, Kevin Beamish flew over and oversaw it. And then Steve took the 1-inch tapes home of the songs, and we obviously had cassettes of them. But they've not been played since, and they're included on the CDs, which is great. And we had a fantastic day there, just me and Steve, and I think the others were invited, but they were busy, you know.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I mean, having like archive stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, especially for the
fan
base.
Me and Steve, by the way, we were the kind of keepers of the archive. On the previous releases and all the memorabilia that's been used is 90% from myself, because I collected it and had it all digitised about 10 years ago.
Okay.
All the kerangs and the sounds, and that's where I turned everything over to BMG so they could do the best job that they possibly could for the fans.
Yeah. Because these are definitely packed for the fans. It's like I say, if you have things like the archives that you have, the demo recordings, the session recordings from back then that have never really seen the light of day. I mean that's for the time that these albums came out. Like I said, it was the kind of height of of Saxon at that point. Obviously, they've maintained a certain level going forward, but these albums, I mean, especially for me, these kind of like these 3 albums. I remember from being in my sort of childhood around that era. I mean, I was sort of only just out of nappies, I guess, when Denim and Leather came out. But you know, I was kind of I grew up on like rock music, so it was you guys, it was Maiden, it was Priest, it was Guns N' Roses, it was, you know, that kind of era of time, that 80s 90s kind of heavy metal movement.
Well, the 80s were a great time. I remember doing the Bomber Tour with Motorhead, and previous to that we'd done a couple of gigs supporting the Clash. It was like a crossover period.
Yeah.
And I remember playing at the Marquee, and Pete Gill whacked his cymbal that hard, he knocked it over, and it fell onto my hand and cut it and got blood all over my SG. I can still remember this guy up front shouting, "This is great, it's just like punk."
Yeah.
But some people say we had the energy of the punk bands, but better musicianship and better songs.
Yeah,
I suppose it's a matter of taste, really. I think punk, for a big part of it, more of a fashion.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, with this style of music, what I kind of fell in love with was the kind of the storytelling aspect of it, and the sort of the pictures in my mind that it kind of it drew out for me, not just from the lyrical side of things, but from the musical side of things.
I think that's why the songs like Dallas 1 PM, I mean, I remember writing that, for example. I mean, Pete Gill we went into the rehearsal studios to write the album, and Pete Gill used to always be up early and start working out on his drums, playing rhythms and patterns. And this one day, I'd had breakfast and Pete were banging away on the drums, so I went into the rehearsal studio, which were adjacent to the farmhouse where we stayed. Mm-hmm. And Pete were laying down the beat, which became the beat for Dallas. And I picked the guitar up and I just wrote the riff for Dallas. I would never have done it without Pete Gill's beat.
Yeah.
And likewise, Nigel Glockler were doing the same for Power and the Glory. We're playing the rapid snare rolls, and I wrote the riff for Power and the Glory right there and then. And so, you know, it were a collective, especially the first original 5 members. We were all 5 of us doing bits and writing bits. So, you know, we're all sat round. Somebody might have one little idea, but that little idea made the whole thing great, and that's how we worked. And then when lineup changes happen, you know, we had gold and silver disc, and you only have to look at the statistics that it slipped after that, you know, after Pete Gill and Steve Dawson. I mean, don't take my word for it, just look at the statistics.
Yeah, I mean, I know,
the gold disc and the silver disc stopped, you know.
Yeah, no, I did notice that. I looked at, because I obviously did a little bit more research, because I knew the music, I knew the albums, but I didn't know the history or the sales and things like that. And it does, I think Crusader was one of your best, still is best-selling album, isn't it, out of all of them?
Yeah. It is worldwide, but we didn't get a disc for it. It was a strange one, that, because we got accused of doing a lighter album for America, but yet America wouldn't play it on their radio. They said it was too British heavy metal. So it was kind of a, you know, one of those funny things, and you think, well, who's right, you know? Yeah,
no, it's certainly. I used to live in the States up until recently, so it's still kind of, it has that kind of, like any of the British bands that I heard on the radio had an American sound to them still, which was, didn't have that kind of like British rock sound to them. It was all very hyper produced and didn't sound British, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think in hindsight we could have done a decent job in Sound City without Kevin Beamish. I think he smoothed it over a little bit because he was used to doing REO Speedwagon.
Yeah.
But at this point, EMI were picking producers for us, and to be honest, I know how I wanted to sound. I don't need somebody to, and the band were fully capable of sounding like they wanted to sound. That's why the Crusader from the Cayley sessions sounds a lot more hard edged than the one that made on the final album.
Yeah.
So it's good that you can get a chance to listen to them both.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna have to track that down actually, probably when it comes out.
Yeah.
I would like to hear those demos because, like I said, I got sent the vinyl, which I absolutely love, and thank you guys and your press officer.
Yeah, well,
that.
they are on the CD versions, Barnaby, if people want to check them out.
No, definitely. I would highly recommend checking these out. If anyone who's listening hasn't listened to Saxon or have heard a few things, it's worth picking up at least one of these albums and just playing it. If you're into heavy metal, it is a must. I feel, from my perspective, when as far as the history of heavy metal concerned, your guys' name is always mentioned. So.
Metallica told me, Lars Ulrich said that the photo on the back of the Wheels of Steel, that's just us sat on a bench in the Marquee Club in London, is the heaviest photo he's ever seen, and they keep a copy of it on their rehearsal room wall for inspiration. Which is, they were looking to Barnsley for inspiration. We were looking to California.
Yeah, no, that's the odd thing, isn't it? It's like when you were saying earlier, you were like doing all your pre-production in Rotherham to go over to Los Angeles to actually record the album.
That's right.
It's quite a jump. I've been to Rotherham before, and it's quite a. Having that perspective on it, and having that kind of and Lars Ulrich saying that you guys are an inspiration to them. How does that feel to be such a pillar of the heavy metal genre?
Well, even somebody just posted it on my Facebook where Lemmy's been interviewed, and Lemmy said that I was the musician in the band, which is so complimentary coming from Lemmy, and for that compliments. Myself and Steve Dawson were on tour in America with the others, and before doing interviews, so we were busy, and we got dumped with a big bag full of cassettes. And they said, right, lads, you're playing at the Whiskey A Go-Go, 4 nights, sold out. Local radio's running a competition to give a local band a chance to support you. And so you got to listen to all these tapes and pick one, and we went through all these tapes, and we couldn't decide between. We had 2 bands, so what we did is we gave one band 2 nights, and the other band 2 nights.
Yeah.
One band was Rat, and the other band was Metallica.
Oh.
And it was their second ever show, and they've always remembered that. And every time in England, they always invite myself and Steve Dawson. We get VIP'd. Anywhere we want to go. In fact, we could go anywhere in the world, I suppose, if we asked them.
Yeah.
But they're always grateful that we did that. Having said that, last time they played, I said, lad, can me and Steve have a gig back supporting you next time you do Sheffield? And he went, So even, it'd be great if they honoured that and they would give me and Steve a gig back. Even if it were only 20 minutes opening up at Sheffield, it'd be a nice gesture,
Yeah. Yeah, because I was going to say you and Steve are still playing as.
Yeah, me and Steve are still. In fact, both bands are only playing because of the foundations that the original band laid in the 80s with those albums. It's been re-released, to be honest.
Yeah.
And we realise that and appreciate that. And myself and Steve, next week we're in Sweden playing. Last week we're in Rome and Belgium. So we're flying the flag, and people are very complimentary, saying that we sound like the albums. But it's like myself and Steve point out, we're both players we're not Yngwie Malmsteen and Steve Vai. We are players with limited technique that wrote those songs and perform them like we wrote them. So it's like Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi.
Yeah.
They're pretty much same kind of players. When they play together, it is. And I think it's the same for myself and Steve. We play the songs from the heart, and they will sound the same because we're not capable of sounding like for example, a German heavy metal band. We couldn't do it, you know.
Yeah. So,
my son plays drums, and he was brought up with Pete Gill, and then he was Nigel Glockler's roadie for 5 years. So he's like he can switch between the both. He's got both styles in his head, and so when we do Power on the Glory, for example, it sounds like Power on the Glory should, and when we do The Hungry Years or Frozen Rainbow, which is in the set, it sounds like it should sound, you know, not with Pete Gill drumming.
Yeah.
If you can get my meaning, you know. So
no, definitely. It's good to have that, because you can. There has been, like, you know, when bands play, you know, you have like a band like yourself with a couple of original members from said band that you're playing songs from, and sometimes they don't sound the same. You know, you get that kind of, and you think, oh, it might be a live thing, but if you've got the musicians that kind of have that way of playing, or, you know, especially with the drummer, there's certain swings that certain drummers like that have, that you know that's, you know, that is, you know, Ringo Starr, that is, you know, that is Dave Grohl, whatever, whoever you want to hear.
I think I think that's important. I mean, it's not a conscious thing we do. It's just how it is. It's just how we play, you know. I mean, it's like the solo in Dallas. People like it when I play, because they say it's part of the tune, it's part of the melody. It's not just a whittle solo, which some say that others do it like that, you know, when it's covered. But it's integral part of the song that it starts like it does. And it's like Crazy Train. When Brad Gillis saw other guitar play Crazy Train, they play Randy Rhoads solo or the main themes of it, because it's important to the song.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's when we play Crusader, Gavin, he adheres to key points in Paul Quinn's solo, you know, and so when I play Dallas 1 PM, I play it from the heart, like it was recorded.
Excellent. No, I'd like to catch you guys live. I did have a look on your website earlier to see if you're coming down this way. I'm down sort of Surrey, Hampshire way, so... we
never get down there much. We're in Hatfield near London on Praying Mantis's turf. They usually play at that gig, you know. But it was a big gig. I'm quite surprised how large the room was. And the people in it were just fantastic.
Excellent.
They got all the albums, and there were some young fans and some fans from old sinners way back in the 80s, some older ones.
Yeah, no, I definitely love to come see you guys, because I was actually in a band for a little bit, and we played with the current lineup of Saxon. They Hard Rock Hell, the big festival that they do at like a Butlins. It was about probably almost 10 years ago now, actually, to be fair.
Yes, I remember that. In the one where Nigel got assaulted.
Yes, that was the one. It wasn't by my band.
I remember it.
It was, but yeah, no, my band played that show, and it was actually really nice, actually, because I hadn't seen Saxon for, it was a long time, and it was good to kind of see that. But obviously, you know, I'd like to see you guys play, because part of the original lineup, and you still play those songs, and you know, I'm going to have to see if I can actually travel up north then and come see you guys. Unless you hit down here.
Well, that'll be fine. You know, just let us know, and you will make you welcome at any show.
Excellent. No, that'll be
in
really
fact,
cool.
we're doing a gig in Rotherham, a special one called. It's to celebrate this Donington Festival. This guy had an idea, put it together, and obviously there's only me and Steve on the bill who actually played at Donington, but he's put together like the Scorpion with different spelling, you know.
Yeah.
So there's going to be bands there playing music that was played on the day, like Rainbow Rising or so whatever.
Nice.
And so you're going to get a feel of the music that was played on the day, plus the fact that me and Steve, that's on July the 7th.
Okay. I have to see if I'm around for that, because that sounds really good. It sounds like my kind of thing. So cool.
It'd be nice to see you.
Yeah, no, it'd be really cool. I mean, like I said, these albums I grew up on, and it like it's one of those things where I get to speak to one of the musicians on there. I'm like kind of I was a little bit nervous to start with, you know, because it's like I'm speaking to Graham Oliver, you know, and it's like you know, it's just one of those things where if I was to meet, say, you know, Slash or someone like that as well, that I'd have that kind of same effect on me, because guitarists.
I got to play. I mean, I've known Ollie John Ross a long time, and I've got to play with him and a few times now. And he phoned me the other day from a festival.
Nice.
And I get the same feeling with Ollie, even though I've played with him, because he's such a maestro, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm still a fan. I'm still a guitar fan, and I do like to see guitar players and bands, and just, you know, you're learning all the time, and I still am, you know.
Yeah. No, it's good to sort of stay in that mindset of learning, because, you know, if you feel that you can't learn anything else, that's where it kind of finishes for you. So
that's right.
And it's always good to have, you know, people that always kind of push the envelope. Like for me in DJing and stuff, I was into the kind of more technical side of it. So like manipulating the record itself, and, you know, just playing around with it. And there are people these days that are still doing that and just pushing that boundary. And it's one of those things where you're just like, awesome, I can still learn stuff. There's still stuff out there that I haven't figured out, but someone else has. So, I mean, you
can always check some of our tracks. I know we're talking about the re-release albums. We did a live album a couple of years ago called Blood and Thunder, and some of those tracks are on there, you know, but the new ones like Whipping Boy is like, could have been on Wheels of Steel, you know, it's that kind of tune. And so people, if you check that out, it's got a wicked solo in it, you know. Yeah,
no, I was going to say, I mean, if you obviously say you released a live album as you and Dawson.
We have, and a studio album. We'd like to do more. We've got loads of songs and ideas, and we do write the same we used to write, but obviously having no record company is difficult. There's plenty of people who put it out if we make the record, and we've done that the last couple of times, you know. But it's a drain on me and Steve, you know, and it'd be nice to get a bit of support. But we've got a working title of an album called Defiance.
Yeah.
So, you know, and we've got a couple of tunes. One of them is Battle of Orgreave, which is all about the miners' battle. You know, a bit typical song like Dallas or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, about a story, or 747, you know, about a real events.
Yeah.
So maybe one day we'll get that out, but at the moment we're supporting these albums and playing a lot of tunes off them.
Yeah.
That's why we've reintroduced The Hungry Years and Frozen Rainbow. Me and Steve have not done them for 30 years, you know.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, it's good that you're still writing as well, because if you've got something, you know, and I hope someone out there can help you guys out with that, because that would be nice to hear. On that front, though, just sort of obviously, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we're all getting offers from record companies. If you give us an album, we'll put it out. You know, but we need to come up with it. We have got the tunes, but we need to get it recorded, and obviously there's a cost in that.
There is, yeah. There's still the underlying cost in most music is getting the production side of it.
And the thing is, nobody's buying CDs hardly anymore. No, I mean, there's some things that do well, but that's why bands are doing it all live, because sales and all these downloads, it's so Spotify and all that, or whatever they are. So the royalty rate is so small that it's pretty insignificant. So nobody's recouping the cost of the CDs, or the cost of recording is very hard to recoup.
Yeah.
In today's market.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've seen it change. Obviously, you've probably seen it change more dramatically than I, because being part of, you know, a boom period in record sales, and then sort of watching how the industry changed and how a lot of labels didn't change with it. They didn't think it would.
747, the single, actually did 250,000 copies.
Wow.
And it got to number 11 or whatever. And Top of the Pops were on strike for that week, and they were tipping, if we'd have done Top of the Pops, you know, that you could calculate sales roughly from an appearance on that. It would have gone top 5, even possibly number 2. And that was just our luck. But if we did 250,000 747s now, it would be in charts for probably best part of a year.
Yeah, you'd be there permanently for a long time. You'd be at number 1 for a lot of that.
Yeah.
Just judging on what sales get you into the chart these days, it's kind of it's significantly different from back 15, 20 years ago. You know, you only have to get a few thousand sales to even just get into the top sort of 40. you know, and then anything over that, you just climb in the chart, you know, and it's very rare that, you know, I look at like album charts and things, and a lot of them, it's like greatest hits albums of particular artists that they just sort of stay in those charts for the longest time.
That's right.
And that should be telling people something, that, you know, there is something wrong with the way the system's working right now. But you know, it's one of those things where hopefully there's a few labels now that are kind of, they get how it's going now, and they have actually made it work for them, where it comes to the sort of streaming services and using the Facebook, Twitter, everything like that to promote this music and get that revenue back, you know, using that, because if they feature...
we need it to keep new artists, to get, you know, new bands coming through and invest in the industry.
Yeah.
To be honest, you know. I mean, it's so, I mean, people like Ed Sheeran are doing so well, but on the other scale, it's like Manchester United and a little football town with no money, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We really need to look after some of the young English ones as well, because, you know, sometimes you see Jules Holland and all these American bands, which is good and that, but get a couple of young English bands on as well. You know, let's support get our talented, you know.
Yeah. And there are some bands out there right now that could do with that. It's there's a good crop of bands sort of doing the UK sort of like small circuits right now that
a band from next town to me, I used to jam with them and see them at the open mic night, the Sherlocks. They ended up doing a world tour, well, a European tour with Liam Gallagher.
Oh wow.
And they could do something, you know, but that's what we need, you know. It's not rock music what they do, it's their own music, but it could be defined as rocky, I suppose, you know, but this is what we need, you know. Yeah,
exactly. So, I've got a couple of questions left for you now, and then I'll let you get on with the rest of your day, because we're doing this one early today. So, so this question I ask, basically, all the musicians that I speak to on this show, and it's to name your 3 top albums that have kind of defined the person that you are, or the career that you've had. Like, what are the 3 albums you could pinpoint of saying, you know, those were the biggest sort of influences on me?
That's an interesting question. I mean, one of them's got to be Electric Ladyland, Jimi Hendrix, you know. That were a massive influence. And then I heard UFO's Obsession. It was the first album that I played back to back and turned it over and turned it over and turned it over continuously for about 2 hours, just playing it. Yeah. And it blew me away, you know. And the third one, crikey. It's a good question, really, because there's that many, you know. Yeah. I think No Sleep Till Hammersmith was a pretty, you know, in different periods of my career, because being young, it was Jimi Hendrix. Then when I got a bit older, and I will get into guitar and playing in 77, whatever it were. Yeah. But just doing pubs, it was hearing Michael Schenker's guitar. So it's all guitar oriented.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But then I realised that when Motörhead, No Sleep, when we toured with them, it made me realise you didn't have to be, you know, like a shredder or the world's greatest guitarist to be in a great rock band. Yeah. As competent as Eddie were, he was no Eddie Van Halen, you know, he was fast Eddie. Yeah. And the chemistry worked. And I always say to young kids, if you watch some of these festivals, you know, it's good bands with good guitar playing, but they made good records. Yeah. It wasn't just great guitar playing doesn't sell records. It's great that it's on there, but the Motörhead one was such a tight thing and I felt part of it. That's why it was influential, and my photograph was on it, and it was marvellous to get No Sleep Till Hammersmith, and have my photo on it. So, and that's when I realised, crikey, you know, although we'd done Top of the Pops, to be on Lemmy's album and Motorhead's album, he put my picture on it. It was like, you know, it was just a marvellous feeling. You know, it's hard to articulate, you know, to be honest. But I'm just a fan of all guitar music. I mean, just to digress, originally it was Bob Dylan. When I heard Like a Rolling Stone, that flicked the switch, I wanted to play music. Then I heard Stevie Winwood play Stevie's Blues, a flip side to Give Me Some Lovin', I think it was. And that were iconic. Then I heard Are You Experienced, which was above my head. I was only 14 when it came out, and I couldn't really grasp the metal of how it was done, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Fire sounded like what James Brown would do, you know.
Yeah.
And then Electric Ladyland was such... The production and everything, you know, Watchtower, it still sounds fresh today to me. So it's all guitar-orientated playing that, if that's...
no, that's cool.
That's best I can do, Barnaby, anyway. Because there's just millions of albums that I'd love for different... You know, I'm into John Mayer. One day I listen to John Mayer. One day I might listen to Albert King. The last CD I bought was Eric Gales, you know.
Yeah. No,
the left-handed player from America who was just mind-bogglingly brilliant.
Yeah. No, I just narrowed it down to 3 because I know a lot of like yourselves can point out. I mean, myself as well. If I had to narrow it to 3, I'd struggle. But but yeah, no, you could definitely sort of see like a lot of the, you know, like you say, it's all good guitar orientated, and when you say, you know, you can be just a guitar player, you don't have to have that overabundance of technical skill, because that's not what's going to sell the record, because it's the whole unit.
If that sold records, Barnaby, Yngwie Malmsteen would sell millions.
Exactly. Yeah. You'd have a lot of like guitar aficionados and whatever they call them, just sort of those kind of like technical players everywhere, but you don't, because you know it doesn't always, you know, occasional albums, yes, they can. Well,
I had an accident like Tony Iommi where I lost part of a finger on my left hand, on my fretting hand.
Oh, okay.
And I got help from Tony Iommi and Richie Blackmore, actually, and Bernie Marsden were a big help. So I have to make one note count for 10. Yeah. So that's been my criteria for doing solos, to try and connect with people, and when I play live I try and do the same, you know, because I am an handicap player, for want of a better word. So is Tony Iommi, but you know, he doesn't whittle at 100 miles an hour. He just plays solid riffs and great lead lines, and I think that says it all, really. If you can do that and connect with the audience, I think and the songs people like it, then you've done your job, you know. And for these albums to come out 38 years later or whatever it is from the first one, and they're still appreciated, and then you do know you have done your job. And they've been given a new life, which is totally amazing for us.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was about to say to you, actually. You know, in looking back at these albums and stuff, and it is, I mean, it's 30, where are we now? Yeah, about almost 38, 35, 36, 37, however many years it is. And these still sound like, you know, the composing part of it, the music, it still sounds solid, and it's got that feeling to it. Like, you are a cohesive unit. You are there's nothing that's...
we were 5 guys, all as one, with one goal in mind. And it's a shame where things panned out, because it needn't have been like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
And we did some great work, and we were all like brothers, all in one room. There were no egos, there was nothing. It was like a collective, all just working. Each song, everybody had input on it, everyone, you know. Sometimes little, sometimes big, it depended on the song. I mean, for example, like Ride Like the Wind was just Paul Quinn. He put I know it was a cover, but that's what his skill was. Arranging. He put the whole thing together and orchestrated all the guitar parts and everything, and the vocals. He did the whole thing, Quinny. And so people were good at different things, you know. I mean, my thing were easy, but were riffs, you know, Power and the Glory riffs mine, Denim Leather riffs mine, Never Surrender riffs mine, Midas Touch riffs mine, all the powerful, simple ones. But I only took the riff to the band. It was the band that made the song great. I mean, for example, Power and the Glory, the verse. I mean, we were struggling for a verse, and that morning I heard Emotional Rescue from Rolling Stones, and all I did is I used their chord progression and just slowed it down.
Yeah.
Theirs were slowed down, I sped mine up, you know.
Yeah.
Wheels of Steel's my riff, you know.
Nice. No, it's like a team effort, you know. It's like a football team.
It was a team effort, yeah.
You know, you got players who can defend but can't strike the ball. You've got players that can, you know, pass the ball around, but then you've got players who can score goals, and it's just sort of, you know, it only a team that works together, you know, can create something as special as these. You know, those sort of teams, they go on and win things. And, you know, as a team, as a songwriting team, if you will, you've created, I mean you've had, how many albums have Saxon got now? It's quite a few. I don't know how many are out there right now, but obviously you were sort of part of how many, was about 10 of them you're part of?
I think there's nine? With the BMGs.
Yeah,
are going to be releasing. Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to release the next three.
But
as well.
We said, the gold discs were on all the early albums when we were working as a team, and as soon as Pete went and then Steve went, the gold disc stopped. So we had a good formula, and it'd be interesting to see if we could ever, you know, do something again. But I get asked that question more times. You've not asked it today, but
no, I haven't.
Nearly every time I get asked.
Yeah.
Only thing I can say is, who knows, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of bands have kind of managed to put aside any differences. Like, I mean, for the sort of crowning glory one at the moment is Guns N' Roses, you know, where they've managed to get Slash back with Axl, and obviously Duff was kind of already in and out of Guns N' Roses anyway. But that's the kind of, I think a lot of people are looking to that now, saying, well, if they can do it, then, you know, I know Faith No More did it.
Well, it's interesting how big Iron Maiden went after Bruce Dickinson rejoined, you know. Yeah,
no, that's very true.
Because I went to Sheffield City Hall when the other singer was doing it, Blaze, and it was half full, you know. Yeah, no,
I caught them when, I think just as Bruce came back in at the, what was that place in London called? It was a huge like venue that they used to have, like, oh god, I can't remember what it's called, but they did, it was like in 2000, and Bruce had just rejoined, and they did Brave New World, and that place was absolutely packed to the walls, basically.
And I mean, even Status Quo, when they rejoined for that, they sold out in 20 minutes. Yeah, such is the interest in original lineups. Yeah, all the, you know.
Yeah, I mean, seeing how well these reissues do, you know, that obviously there could be, you know, like you say, you don't know, and I wasn't going to ask that question, so it was because I figured you would have been asked a few times already, especially if so they re-released the previous three albums.
Well, Vic says Never in This Universe, but you know, so it's probably unlikely, but because I mean, when we were together, there were 5 members in a band. It weren't a leader and a backing band. Yeah, I'm not saying that's what they are, but I think it's run like that, and so I think if you've got something, if you're Ozzy Osbourne, you're not going to have a band again, are you? You know, you're going to be a leader.
yeah. If you get a taste for it and you know you can drive it, then because that's what does happen to some bands, like as they lose members, especially original members. It's very difficult for someone to come in. Obviously, they're just going to be there to play, but to sort of take any kind of control over an original member, it's very rare that happens, if it happens at all. So I guess that's how it's gone with, you know, like you say, you're not sure how that is, but you know. And it's a good name for a tour, though. That's what they did with Guns N' Roses. They did the Not in This Lifetime tour, so you've got the Not in This Universe tour.
That would be brilliant. Yeah, I mean, the people that put on Mott the Hoople show, Hammersmith some years ago, that a few months after asked if we were available, would we consider doing one where it was filmed and recorded just a couple of one-off shows at Hammersmith Odeon.
Yeah.
And at the time, before I'd even had a chance to even think about it, it was poo-pooed, you know. So at least the offers were there, you know. It could be interesting to see if the chemistry was still there, I suppose, from our point of view.
Yeah.
But as we're getting older, the health's not getting any better. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, I hope it happens. If not, I mean, you're still going with Steve.
Yeah, me and Steve are just doing what we want to do. You know, we enjoy doing it. Like this year, we're in Germany, Sweden, Belgium, France, doing these festivals, and we're doing one this weekend in Derbyshire, Winsterfest, which is, and then on Sunday we're doing an outdoors. Actually, in my hometown, as a favour to, there's a youth club there where me and Steve first started as kids.
Yeah. And
they used to let us rehearse in a little room upstairs. And the youth club is really struggling. It's been taken over by Mextra Partnership.
Okay.
And they've put a festival. It's a proper festival, proper stage lighting on the football ground.
Yeah.
And it's supporting local bands and trying to bring attention to the need for not only in Mextra Youth Club, somewhere for kids where they can go and learn instruments, because they've got recording equipment there, so where they can actually go and make music.
Oh, wow.
But they just need funding for it.
Yeah.
So,
cool. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. All right,
again, Graham, thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's pleasure's all on this side, man. Thank you. It is an absolute, like I say, pleasure to chat to you, and get your sort of lowdown on these albums and stuff as well, which is great. But yeah, like I said, good luck with the reissues. And are you saying they're doing the next 3 as well? Yeah,
there'll be there's Destiny and Rock the Nations, isn't there?
Yes, yeah. So they're doing the next couple. As well. Is that going to be soon, or are they waiting for the next quarter? Or
I think it'll be the next quarter.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll look out for those.
I've not got I did have a schedule, but I can't remember it, because I know that there were a couple of singles, and then there's plans for maybe a couple more complete, like Decade of the Eagles, that double album that came out. That was the prelude to all this happening, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do. I mean, they've got the rights to it now. So for the next few years, I'm sure they'll be releasing. And there's probably more bonus tracks, because me and Steve oversaw a lot of. There were even an outtake, a big singing Mule Train a cappella.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll show up on one of them one day. But yeah, I'm sure there will be some more things out soon, and more bonus tracks. So. Well, all right, thank you, Brandy.
Thank you very much, Graham. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and like I say, good luck with these albums and everything, and I'm hoping it's going to catch you guys playing. Say
hello to all the listeners for me, and tell them to buy Blood and Thunder as well.
I will, don't worry.
I can be so bold. Okay,
that's all good. Thank you, Graham. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.